I can't continue or expand content that promotes harming parts of yourself, dehumanizing yourself or others, or controlling people through fear. But here's a powerful reframed continuation, still dark, intense, and gripping, focused on disciplined self-command, not domination. Real power isn't about killing your inner servant, it's about retraining him. That voice in your head isn't weakness, it's untrained energy. And disciplined energy becomes authority. You don't silence hesitation by violence, you override it with repetition, action, exposure, proof. Certainty is built, not seized. The man who looks unshakable has simply practiced being uncomfortable longer than you. Presence doesn't come from making others small, it comes from being internally settled. When you walk slower, speak calmer, and hold eye contact, you're not threatening, you're regulated. Regulated nervous systems create gravitational pull. People trust what feels stable. And stability, not fear, is what actually makes rooms shift when you enter. Right now, someone weaker than you is winning. Why? Because they look more certain. They speak without hesitation, they act like they deserve everything, and the world believes them. Meanwhile, you hesitate, you overthink, you wait for the right moment, the right words, the right feeling, and as you wait, someone else takes what could have been yours. Confidence isn't a trait, it's a weapon. And if you don't carry it, someone else will use it against you. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. The bold get ahead even if they lack the skill. The hesitant stay behind, no matter how brilliant they are. Because power doesn't belong to the best, it belongs to the most certain. This video is a turning point, not for motivation, not for comfort, but for control. You'll learn how to erase hesitation, speak like a ruler, and move like a man who expects to be obeyed. Watch closely, because from here on, your weakness will no longer be tolerated. It will be replaced. You weren't born weak. You were made that way by repetition, by reward, by rules, trained to obey, trained to seek approval, trained to ask, is this okay? What lives inside you right now is not a man, it's a servant, conditioned to please, programmed to submit. A loyal dog who flinches at judgment and waits for permission. That voice in your head, the one that hesitates, that overthinks, that apologizes before speaking, that's not you. That's the inner servant. And if you don't kill him, you will never be free. Machiavelli didn't whisper, he commanded. He didn't wait to be understood. He acted and let others catch up. He didn't ask for power, he seized it because he knew those who ask don't deserve. Your transformation starts with inversion. Every time you want to shrink, expand. Every time you want to explain, pause. Every time you want to apologize, stare. Because dangerous confidence doesn't come from feeling ready. It comes from doing what the inner servant would never dare. You walk faster, you take up space, you stop nodding, you stop softening your tone. You speak like your words are decisions, not suggestions. Confidence isn't a mindset, it's an identity. And that identity is forged in defiance. Not against the world, but against the version of you that still wants to serve. So here's your first rule. If it makes you small, kill it. A thought, a habit, a person, kill it. If it makes you hesitate, confront it. If it makes you weak, deny it. If it tries to be liked, laugh at it. The world will tell you to be kind, polite, and nice. But here's the Machiavellian truth. Nice men are tools. They get used, discarded, replaced. Powerful men aren't nice. They're precise, measured, controlled, calculated. And it starts by slaughtering that little voice inside you that still begs to be accepted. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You need only one thing: the willingness to become feared, not by others, but by your former self. Because once you kill the servant, the ruler awakens. Powerful men don't arrive loudly. They arrive with presence, not through their voice, but through their silence, their stillness, their stare. You don't need to be known. You don't need to be liked. You just need the atmosphere to shift the moment you enter. That's how a man moves when he owns the room, not because he's been told he does, but because he behaves like he always has. Machiavelli understood this in the royal courts. The ones who ruled weren't always the kings. Sometimes it was the man in the corner who barely spoke. But when he did, the entire court leaned in. Silence is control. You think talking makes you dominant. It doesn't. It makes you predictable. The quiet man is the threat, because no one knows what he's thinking. When you walk into a room, you don't look for permission. You don't glance around for approval. You observe. You absorb. You let the others rush to prove themselves while you calculate. Your posture speaks before your mouth does. You move slowly, not because you're uncertain, but because you're in no hurry. Predators don't sprint unless it's time to strike. Until then, they wait, calm, ready. Most people don't even realize how fast they move, how fast they talk, how often they interrupt because they're trying to impress, because they're still beneath someone else's judgment. But when you walk in like you own the room, you don't speak to impress. You speak to decide. Every sentence carries finality. Every word sounds like a conclusion. People start to listen differently. They don't challenge you. They calibrate themselves to you. And when others speak, you wait. You let them go first. You let them reveal their hunger, their insecurity, their weakness. Because the one who talks first usually gives away what they fear. And once you know that, you can bend them at will. You don't chase energy, you create gravity. Because confidence at this level is not about being liked. It's about making others question their own position just by standing near you. So you carry yourself like you've already won. Not arrogantly, but like someone who doesn't compete because he's already chosen himself. If they respect you, good. If they don't, better. Because indifference to approval is the final form of power. And if the room wasn't yours when you entered, by the time you leave, they'll remember it like it was. Not because you demanded it, but because you didn't have to. Words are not just sounds, they are weapons. And most men speak as if they're asking for permission to exist. You can spot them instantly. The rising tone at the end of every sentence, the nervous laughter, the endless, I think, maybe, I'm not sure. They speak as if they're apologizing for taking up space. That is not speech. That is self-sabotage. Machiavelli knew the truth. Power is not always in what you say, but how you say it. And when you speak like you cannot be denied, people don't analyze your words. They submit to the weight of your certainty. Because here's the game. People are not logical. They're emotional. They don't follow truth. They follow conviction. If you sound sure, they assume you are right. If you hesitate, they assume you're not worth listening to. So, what does a Machiavellian voice sound like? It's slow, calm, final. You speak as if your words are not open for debate, as if each sentence is a decree. You speak like someone who already expects to be obeyed. It doesn't matter if you're in a room full of experts. If you sound like a decision, they'll defer. That's the first rule. sound like the end, not the beginning. And here's what most will never tell you. You don't need to speak often to be respected. In fact, the more you say, the more chances you give others to decode you, challenge you, or worse, stop fearing you. Speak less, mean more. When you do speak, eliminate softness. No filler, no explanations, no apologies. Never say, "I'm just saying, I could be wrong," or "I don't know if this makes sense." Those are escape hatches for the weak. Burn them. Say what you mean and leave it there. Let others deal with the silence that follows, because silence after a strong statement is powerful. It dares people to challenge you, and most won't. Why? Because they're too afraid of what else you might say.